Hi, you're listening to The Pit Stop. That's with two T's on WSBC Radio. I'm Leo Sun.
I'm Stephen Foss.
Well, Stephen, what you got for us this week?
I thought you were supposed to say something else. I was like waiting for you to say something else to segue.
Well, no.
And you just looked at me like, now what do I do? All right.
What do you got for us this week, Stephen?
It's my week to present, and I like local history. I've lived here in Latrobe for about 13 years, and I have decided to tackle one of the most unique buildings and a very interesting historical, with some interesting historical significance. Sorry, finding the right words there. But I am covering the history of Mozart Hall, which is in downtown Latrobe. It's specifically, if you wanted to know, it's at 340 Main Street, which is in the very heart of downtown Latrobe.
You can't miss it.
Well, you definitely can. I mean, the street that it's on is very tight.
It's very narrow, that's true.
Let's get into it. Leo, what do you know about Mozart Hall? Do you know anything?
It's named after Mozart, the musician.
Yeah, actually, you are correct, and I'll get into why that is here. Just a second.
I mean, it's a famous guy.
It's pretty. It's really it doesn't take much thought to be like, oh.
It's very unique design. There's two not towers, but the facade has two onions shaped.
That's actually what they're called. Yeah.
Okay.
Onion domes.
I don't know much about the building. I'm really just guessing here. So this is is it green?
No, it's blue. They've repainted it blue.
Oh, I messed up there.
Well, hey, you're 2 for 3. I'll give you credit for that. But let's get into it. So the building itself was built in 1890 by a man named George Seiler. Seiler? Seiler. Is that Sealer or Seiler?
I'm going to go with Seiler.
Seiler?
That sounds cool.
Okay, yeah. All right, we're going this one because it sounds cooler.
Apologies to any of the Seiler or Sealer family.
Yeah, we're very sorry. But George immigrated to America with his family from Austria and became an architect. And the unique style of the hall honors the old German opera houses that Seiler saw when he lived in Austria.
Okay.
In my research, I found that the style is called Art Nouveau.
Nuavo.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Nouveau.
Okay.
Yeah. You know that line from Ghostbusters, Art Deco, very nice.
Yes,
that you say on a daily basis.
Every time we went to New York City.
Every single time we went into a New York City building, Leo was just like, "Oh, Art Deco, very nice."
I mean, New York City is a lot of Art Deco.
Well, this is Art Nouveau.
Is Art Nouveau predate Art Deco?
I think so.
That makes sense.
Obviously, this was built in 1890.
I mean, it's not far from Art Deco, realistically.
I guess
it's only 30 years.
I guess you're right. Yeah, 30, 40 years.
That's not far at all, actually.
It seems like an older style.
Right.
This was built to honor older style buildings.
Right.
But okay, moving on. It has the 2 onion-style domes on the top and bright, ornate details all across the front. And a fun fact about the details that are all across the front: they're very ornate, and they're made out of cast iron.
Cast iron?
Yeah, it's cast iron facades. That
Those
give it
onions.
that. No. All of the details that go down the front of the building.
Oh,
The onions themselves aren't cast iron.
like the decoration part.
Yeah,
Okay,
that gives it that kind of fancy smancy look on the front.
Right.
And it's one of only 2 buildings left in the town that have this feature. The other one has also been restored. It's called Columbus Hall, and it's actually less than a block away. It's at 908 Ligonier Street, which is adjacent to
It's on that
Main
intersection,
Street.
right?
Yeah.
Built by the same guy?
I don't think it was built by the same guy,
Okay.
but they had the same kind of style with the cast iron facades.
One guy just saw it. He's like, I'm in love with this building. I gotta make my own.
I guess, dude. But yeah, I mean, it's unique. We have 2 of them, which is cool because there's not a lot of these left.
Are there any during your research, did you find any other buildings in this style that were famous in the U.S.?
Not in this area, and I didn't do much research into that. No.
Okay. Well, I'm just
Sorry.
there's this in my old town there was this Egyptian style building.
Really?
Yeah. So those are really rare because there's a really niche time in the 20s where they went, or early 1910s where they went with Neo-Egyptian.
That's weird.
And the newest one, you want to know what building that is? It was built in like the 70s.
It's a gas station or
The
something?
Bass Pro Shop
There's a... Wait.
pyramid. That was like technically
The-
speaking, that fits.
The Memphis period?
Yeah,
Really?
that's technically the same
That's-
architecture style as that 1910 building because
What?
they're inspired by Egyptian stuff. But I was just
yeah,
curious.
but dude, the Memphis pyramid I have had the honor of seeing. It's very large and pyramid shaped. What else can I say? But
I was just curious if there were any other buildings.
I couldn't find anything else. But again, I didn't research too deeply into it.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Let's get into the name. So Seiler was from Salzburg, Austria. Guess who else was from Salzburg?
Mozart.
Wait, you said it earlier.
I'm just trying to think of anyone else from like Salzburg that like.
Well, I mean, the one that everybody knows is Mr. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Amadeus.
Yeah. But yeah, he was from Salzburg. So was Seiler and his family.
Who else is from Salzburg?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's a
But
big
everybody,
town.
it's a big town, yeah. But everybody knows Mozart. But the building was named in honor of Mozart. Because the reason it is called Mozart Hall is because there was a dance hall aspect to it.
Right.
Seiler structured the building so as to combine business and culture. And let me explain what I mean by that here. The upper floor had a large hall with a stage facing away from the street. And it was used like you could watch operas in there, dance halls, dance halls, have dances
In the halls, yes.
dances in the halls, right? And yeah, it was supposed to be like a big space to just gather, have fun, watch cool musical performances.
Like it wasn't like a traditional theater, right? It was it
No.
like a single floor would be dedicated to like a performance style act. Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. I'll get into the theater aspect of it here in just a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, throughout the 1890s and into the early 1900s, there were many operettas, musicals, and concerts that were performed within Mozart Hall, which is kind of cool. And then on the business side, the bottom floor had space for 2 businesses to operate. And multiple businesses have used the building over the years. But I don't know, I don't have a list of all the different businesses.
Well, you showed me a photo of what Mozart Hall used to look like before the renovation.
Right.
It looked very different.
Very different.
There was a
Yes.
big cross. I'm assuming it was like a church.
Yeah,
space.
I'll get into that
Okay.
because that has to do with the current owners of the building. Actually, was that cross?
But are they still the current owners?
Yeah, actually.
So okay, you go into it.
Right. And this is a part where I almost wish we had gone to the Latrobe Area Historical Society just to see what kinds of businesses have used the building over the years, because I don't even know which ones are operating out of it currently. They've changed hands like a bunch of times over the years, but 2 businesses have been able to operate out of the building at the same time. And then I just found a cool note. In 1912, the men's organization, the Latrobe Club, bought the building and began using it for various activities and meetings, which included dances and other activities that I found that they used the building for throughout the years. High school graduations, which I assume Latrobe High School did their graduations here.
How big was a graduating class?
I don't know.
That must be it's a big space, I suppose.
I mean, it's a big space, right? I don't know exactly how big, but I assume that you could have a high school graduation in here. Anyway, I think that you'll find these other 2 a little bit more interesting. In World War I, it was a recruiting and drilling station.
Oh.
And also in World War I, the Red Cross used it as a knitting and bandage rolling site. They made bandages in there.
That's
Yeah.
Bandages back then was pretty much just cloth.
Yeah, it really didn't take much.
I mean, we think about Band-Aids now, but bandages was really just cotton.
Yeah, and you just wrap it up real tight.
Still a process to make it, but that's pretty cool.
But yeah, they used it to manufacture, bandages. After World War II, the building was once again sold. The storefronts were once again rented out, and they used the upper level, instead of dances and stuff, they used it for the YMCA and for the local Girl Scout troop. So at this point, you're like, well, now you're kind of starting to drift away from what the building was originally intended for. But they did have a bit of a problem.
Okay.
On Depot Street, there was a building called the Showalter Opera House.
Another opera house?
Yes.
On the same
And this
street?
was a designated theater, not a mix of a dance hall and then also a stage that you could perform stuff at. This was a designated opera house, that like a designated musical house that like could seat over 1,000 people.
This is where people go.
Yeah, and this is where people went for like operas and stuff like that. Like this was like it was way more comfortable, way more ornate. So Mozart Hall kind of had competition that was, I guess, better in different ways.
The free market.
Yeah, but it had competition, and it definitely struggled with that, and that led to what I'm about to go into here.
Okay.
Because around the late 1950s, the building was just pretty much abandoned. Like, just straight up, nobody was using it, not for its intended purposes. I don't even know if they were running businesses out of it. And it was abandoned for the better part of 30 years.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah. Only in the 1980s do we have, like, knowledge of any businesses, like, noticing it and being like, hey, we could run a business out of this place. And then just using it as a business place. But the upper level was just completely unused. They used it maybe for storage, and that was all.
I mean, at least, it's still here, considering, like, a lot of buildings in Latrobe have just been demolished.
I know.
Years.
And that's almost what's so incredible about the story of this building. Is like so many other buildings, including the Showalter Opera House, have all been torn down and just forgotten about. Yet Mozart Hall survived.
Still stands.
It's still there. But there was a bit of a problem with the place, and it almost probably did get torn down because it was just, over the years, was getting just more and more worn out. And nobody wanted the monumental task of, restoring this huge 1890s era building to what it once was until 2017.
That's pretty recent.
Yeah. So at the time, the building was, and still is, owned by the nonprofit organization called Faith Forward Ministries.
Oh.
So if you look back at old pictures before the restoration, there was a big cross that they had like on the one window. And that was that nonprofit organization. They operated out of the upper level, I think. So what they did is they tapped into a local foundation grant, and then they reached out to a local organization called the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program to do a full restoration on the building. And it went through, and it was done. Yeah, and it's pretty much back to what it looked like back in, the early 1900s. It's back to its former glory now.
It must have taken a lot of time to...
a lot of time, a lot of money. Yeah.
You say cast iron, like, they don't make those molds anymore. Like,
nope.
Making cast iron is a very hard process.
Yeah. Well, they stripped the paint, they just repainted it, but also, like, you had to, preserve that, right? So this was a big project. I remember when they were doing this, actually, when they had, like, they only had one lane going through Latrobe. And it's a massive improvement. Because I remember, like, this was only 7 years ago. Yeah.
2017 was a long time.
17? Yeah, 2017 actually was a while ago. What were you doing in 2017? You don't even remember?
Middle school?
Middle school? Yeah, that sounds
What is that like?
Yeah, I was in like 4th grade.
I was 7th grade?
Wait a minute, that doesn't seem right.
2020 is when I became a freshman.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
So I was 6th grade.
Yeah, 6th grade. We were in 6th grade.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
I didn't know you existed.
Yep, I had no idea. You lived in Minnesota. I lived in Pennsylvania.
Right.
I'd never met you. All right, we're getting distracted. But just a quick shout out to the Community Revitalization Program because I've worked with them in the past and they're nice. Hi, Jared Tronzo. I miss you. Yeah, the inside of the building is basically retaining the same functions that it did back in 1890. They got 2 businesses running out of it, and then the upper level is currently not really being used, but it could be.
I've heard that the upper level is being used. Like, I think it's like a space for people who need like to get away from like issues. Like,
oh, the nonprofit organization is probably still there, huh?
Yeah, I
didn't think about that.
Well, because like no one's like, it's more of like an office space on the bottom floors, from what I understand, for the organization. Yeah. So like I haven't seen the interior but there's a lot, like, it's large inside.
It is, yeah. And I think you're probably right, actually. That's probably what they're up to.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll tell you what I would give to go up in there, dude.
I agree.
I don't know if they let people up in there just for funsies, but
wouldn't hurt to ask.
You know what's interesting, actually, that I found in my research is the ceiling of the upper level is this cool pressed metal tile, which it's actually still a feature in a lot of Latrobe's buildings. Apparently you could order this stuff out of like a magazine.
Like a Sears catalog?
Yeah, and it's like this really ornate looking ceiling, and it's kind of cool.
It's like the 4th floor of Alfred.
I don't know. I haven't.
Guys, you need to look up more in your lives.
Stop looking at your phone. Look up at the ceiling.
You just might miss something.
Reject modernity. Don't laugh at me. Anyway, but that's pretty much the entire story that I could find. I'm sure that there's more information that is out there, like in the Historical Society, but we didn't have time.
We'll do a follow-up episode, maybe.
Maybe, if we find more stuff. But the final line is that today, the building is still standing as a beautiful and unique landmark of Latrobe's heritage and history. Yeah, it's the most unique building that we have in town.
It's kind of, a lot of people from Latrobe have seen that building growing up, and a lot of people, when they drive through town, they'll see that building.
Exactly.
And that building if that building can tell stories.
Yeah, right?
That World War I, I'm pretty sure the division that came out, they were distinguished and would, after the war, so,
and we haven't
seen that parade,
Yeah, right?
All this stuff. So it's incredible to think, what that building has seen.
Just real quick, I'd just like to say that Latrobe, for all of you who are, from not around here, out of state maybe, Latrobe used to be cool. We're still cool, but we used to be so much cooler.
We're trying to bring it back.
It's an uphill battle.
The trolleys.
We'll get to we're going to do a whole episode just on the Latrobe trolleys because we're salty. We used to have the world's coolest trolleys.
Where do you think Fred Roger got the idea?
Exactly. It was from here. We'll do a whole episode on Fred Roger too. Don't worry. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Anything else you want to say?
No. Just see us next week.
Yeah, and if you're ever driving through downtown Latrobe, I'm so sorry because it sucks. But look off to your left if you're going up through, and if you get a glance at Mozart Hall, appreciate it, and you'll have a little bit of a better understanding of it.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a very cool building, probably the most unique in town, and it's cool to look at, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm Leo's son.
I'm Stephen Foss. We'll catch you guys next time.
Hey there, listeners. I'm Matt Boyer, station manager of WSVC Radio. If you like what you're listening to, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and hit that bell button to be notified with all of our newest updates. Every day, one of our shows is releasing a new episode. Stick around and stay tuned.